Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we have a ranked, this is not a top 10. And if you've been following along with my channel, you should know these videos are meant to be a celebration of perfume. So basically I started them because I was sick and tired of the same old top 10s. If you watch some channels, you'll kind of get what I'm talking about. You'll see this is a top 10 cold winter list. This is a top 10 icy weather list. This is a top 10 going out with your girlfriend and it's cold outside list. This is a top 10 when it's snowing outside list. This is a top 10 deep freeze list. And it's like, come on, man. Like, let's try to do something different here. And so I started this whole process because I didn't want to be boxed in. I wanted to be able to talk for as short or as long as I wanted about as many fragrances as I wanted. And I have a very conversational style anyways with people, or with these videos, I should say. And so it was a way for me to just kind of, do it my way. And then I thought it would be nice to rank these lists because everyone always asks me, hey, do you like this or this more, And I did a top 100 where I did my personal rankings. That's on my channel. I should probably find a way to make it more prominent because I still feel that I've done so many videos this year that it's kind of buried under the just pure amount of content that I've put out. But outside of ranking my personal taste, I decided, you know what? I wanted to rank the individual note, how I viewed each individual note in each perfume. And it's a hard thing to do, especially when you take things as seriously as I do. So that's what these videos are about. And this is going to be a ranked, this is not a top 10, on the note of aldehydes. Now, if you go watch my original aldehyde video, you'll see that I spent some time talking about the different types of aldehydes. Many people think that aldehydes just offer this sparkly, fizzy, airy, bubbly, maybe somewhat ozonic, airy, it's like filling a balloon up with helium and kind of watching it expand. Aldehydes do that for me. And many people think it's just in the top. It's not. Actually, there's some aldehydes, that last the entire length of the fragrance. And so I talked about some of that. If you're interested in kind of learning a little bit about some of the different types of aldehydes, go watch my first video. But this is going to be a top 70, okay? It's just what it is. There's also a bunch of honorable mentions that I only had a couple mil or a sample or something that I didn't want to include in the video. Most of these that are included in the video are full bottles or 10 ml decants or something like that. But there were a couple that were so good that even though I only have a sample, I had to include it in the top 70 because, they are very high on my full bottle list. And, they deserve to be in this list. They deserve to be more than an honorable mention just because of how amazing they are. There are some that are just honorable mentions that probably also deserve to be on this list, but had to draw the line somewhere. Top 70. So, I hope you guys love these. Kick back. I hope you got your seatbelt on. This is going to be a long one. So let's do scent of the day first, like we always do. And today I had an interesting experience with this today. And I'll tell you a story that I think is worth putting out there. So I wore this today. This is Creed's Vanisia. And this, whoops, that's upside down. This is the batch code's upside down. Wait a minute. Nope, that was right the first time. So this is Creed's Vanisia. And you can see this is a 2013 bottle. So yes, it's old, but it's not like from when it came out in 1987. Interestingly enough, Anuj at Enchante sent me a very old bottle. I don't know when it's from. My guess is probably from the 90s or, late 90s or early 2000s, something like that. Much later than, or much earlier than this flacon that I have of Vanisia. And I wore it today, and I was like, man, I'm not getting any of the sparkly bergamot and vanilla that reminded me of Shalimar the first couple times I've worn this, because I only wore this 2 or 3 times. And I was like, man, what's going on? Like, did my nose change? And did I mistake what I originally smelled when I first sprayed this? And then it hit me. I decanted. He sent me a partial bottle that had an issue with the atomizer, so I decanted it into this decanter, and I sprayed it. And I wore it for the first half of the day, and I was like, I'm not getting, it's just kind of like derivative base notes and spices, and it's not very good. It's very flat. And then it hit me. That's the older bottle that Anuj sent me a partial of. And, you know, that's the risk with vintage perfumes. They're just, as time goes on, they're going to decay. That's just how it is. There's no stopping the decay. You can slow it down by keeping it away from light and stuff like that, but the decay will happen. The degradation of the notes will happen. So I went back and I got a decant from my bottle, and I sprayed it, and there it was, the beautiful bergamot, the you know, Shalimar-like vanilla. And it really reminded me that, you know, that's just why I never judge people like when they disagree with me on perfume. I never say, you know, you're right, I'm wrong. Because when you're playing, especially in the vintage space, there's so many factors. How the fragrance was stored. Especially once you kind of get down, there's a lot of air in the bottle. Sometimes that's good because the fragrance opens up more, but if it's a really old fragrance, sometimes that means more air can get into the bottle and mix with the fragrance. And, you know, that's when the clock starts. Once air mixes with the fragrance is when the clock actually starts as far as the countdown goes. So you really want unsprayed. In a perfect world, you'd want unsprayed fragrances, but when you're collecting vintages, sometimes that's impossible to do. So I just thought I'd tell you guys that story because, and I'm very glad I still have that other bottle because it was still nice, but it was missing some of the top and the mid and stuff like that. And so, but if I was just someone who was kind of going through these and you're testing a bunch of different fragrances, and, you know, if that was the first thing I smelled, I would have wrote this fragrance off. If I heard someone like me on here waxing lyrically about Vanisia, and that's all I smelled was the, you know, partial that feels like it kind of had the top notes missing, I would be like, this is not that good. What is that guy talking about? That is a risk of vintage fragrances, but Vanisia is absolutely beautiful. If you can find one that has kind of the top notes intact, you know, the sprightly bergamot, the Bulgarian rose, the real ambergris, the sandalwood, which feels like Mysore sandalwood, even though I don't think it is, and the vanilla in the base, and it is absolutely stunning. Such a beautiful scent. Absolutely amazing. So that was my scent of the day. Okay, let's do some honorable mentions. So the first one is a Prin fragrance, which I plan on doing a early impression on the channel very soon, hopefully. And this was sent to me by my good friend Lee from Fragnanimous. He's come up quite a bit lately. Go check out my Bortnikov early impression video. Bortnikov put out 3 new cologne fragrances, and I did a live stream where I tested them, and honestly, I was not a fan. I can report back that Cologne de Feu in the late dry down was the nicest of the 3, because I tried one here, one here, one here. And Cologne de Feu in the late dry down had the nicest late dry down, and it kind of had the nicest top, because it had this bitter orange, bitter citrus-like top thing. But it was pretty bad in the mid. I didn't like how sweet it got in the mid, but anyways, none of them were full bottle worthy. I was very disappointed in those, but he sent me a couple things over the years, and this is one of them. This came out this year, actually, and it's called Rahasani. Rahasani. I guess that's how you pronounce it. Rahasani. And this is supposed to be an earthy animalic fragrance. And like many Prin fragrances, it has a million things. Skunk accord, Thai oud, camphor notes, galbanum, violet leaf, castoreum, nagamata, pine tar, provincial lavender, absolute. Just goes on and on and on. And in the top, it has aldehydes. So, honorable mention, Rahasani. I'm excited to talk about that one. Whoops, and I dropped it. Oh, it's so hard to keep all these little decants standing. Okay. Next on the list, we have a Tat Libre d'Orange fragrance, which I also plan on doing an early impression on very soon, I hope. And this is a fragrance called Exit the King. So, Exit the King came out in 2020, came out a couple years ago, and it's kind of this synthetic floral scent. With Nepalese Sichuan pepper, aldehydes, of course, it's the aldehyde video, musk, pink pepper, jasmine, rose, lily of the valley, patchouli, moss absolute, sandalwood, and this note called Orchinox, which I think is like a ambroxan synthetically produced molecule by one of the big houses. I'm not 100% sure, but I I quite like a Tat Libre d'Orange fragrances, so I'm excited to give that one a try. And then, I'm probably going to have to get a cough drop at this rate. I hope I can go the full top 70 here. So there's a brand that I haven't done any videos on the channel yet, although I've talked about them. They've made some lists just kind of like this, honorable mentions or whatever. Excuse me. And they're called Juicebox, and they're based on music, okay? So that's why it kind of looks like a record. And this is a fragrance that was actually done by Antoine Lee. And I'm very excited to try this fragrance out. It came out in 2018. And it's like the synthetic spicy fragrance with aldehydes, ether, saffron, lavender, vinyl, which I think is very interesting note, especially because it's from Antoine Lee, and especially because his creation for Eugene, La Dernière Exquise, which I think is the perfume of the year. And I don't give a shit if it's a YouTube brand or not. I'm just telling you from what I've smelled from Les Abstraits. I liked Belle Âme, but I absolutely loved La Dernière Exquise. I think it is one of the best rose patchouli fragrances ever created, and that castoreum note in the dry down just speaks to my heart. But what is interesting about that connection is it reminds me of Imitation Man by Amouage. And Imitation Man came out a couple years before that. It came out in 2018, I think, sometime around this No Rules release. And there is a vinyl note in Imitation Man. It almost gives off this record-like vibe, which is, again, interesting because it's that fragrance, Imitation Man, is supposed to be a representation of Christopher Chong's childhood in New York City in the 1970s, okay? And in the 1970s, of course, people used records. And somehow it does smell like the 70s. It has this, you know, plaid couch, vinyl type accord. And there's a vinyl note here with cinnamon, leather, birch bark, and musk. And so it's just interesting to see, you know, Antoine Lee playing with stuff like that. And then, God, they're just going to fall over. I should just leave them. I should just leave these samples on their side. There is a Tom Ford. I think this is a 4 mil. I can never remember. Yeah, it's 4 mils. And this was sent to me by one of you kind perfume god people. And this is called Lavender Palm. And Lavender Palm is discontinued. It's one of the discontinued Tom Ford private blends. It came out in 2011, and it's bergamot, provincial lavender, lavender absolute with herbal sage, lemon, aldehydes, linden tree, palm leaf, pink pepper, vetiver, cedar, benzoin moss, tonka bean, and frankincense. And so, pretty interesting with that palm leaf, you know. I wonder if it's going to remind me a bit of Palm Sunday at church, you know, because I was raised Catholic. I wonder how much Palm Sunday is going to come back from Lavender Palm. But excited to give that one a try. Still on the honorable mention list, we have a Roja Dove. And it was A Midsummer's Dream. And there's actually a full review of that on the channel already. Or as much of a review as I could give based on a decant, based on a little sample. I did not like this. This is one of my least favorite Rojas. I thought it was very bland and just boring white musks. It didn't do much for me. There are some aldehydes in the top, but and a bunch of different citruses, grapefruit, lemon, bergamot, mandarin orange, and stuff like that. But it was just very boring fragrance. I thought it was Roja trying to take advantage. It felt like Roja trying to take advantage of people that wanted a Roja, but they wanted kind of like a cheaper priced Roja. And so this is kind of what he put out there in 2016. Did not do it for me at all. Did not seem like the ingredients were high quality. Not a fan. Not a fan of that at all. And then there is a Amouage decant I'm very excited to talk to you guys about. And it's a woman's version of an Amouage. I just talked about the men's version, Imitation Man, but this is Imitation Woman. And Imitation Woman is also this aldehydic floral. So it's like this fruity aldehydic floral with some very interesting notes. There's licorice, which yesterday I did an early impression on a Parfums Cortana fragrance called Blood Flower. And in that fragrance, there was a gigantic licorice note, probably the biggest licorice note I've ever smelled. And there's a licorice note in here with blackcurrant bud, aldehydes, frankincense, sandalwood, and patchouli. That sounds very interesting. Can't wait to do an early impression video on that for you guys. And then probably, again, we're still on the honorable mentions, but these need to be mentioned. I didn't want to rank them because I only have a couple drops of each one. But this is a very special fragrance. I sprayed this, when did I forgot when I sprayed this, but I sprayed it either in a video or a live stream recently, and this is full bottle worthy. It's just finding a bottle. I mean, I would love to find an intact bottle of this, but it came out in 1964, so it's a big risk. I actually bought a set of Monsieur Lanvin EDT, and it was like EDT and aftershave combo or whatever. I got a fantastic deal. It came in a leather pouch. Anyways, long story short is the fragrance is bad. It's off. It's not good. Which is a shame because I have a decant of Monsieur Lanvin. I love that fragrance, but that also came out in the 60s. It's a risk buying really old fragrances. And this is called Y by YSL, the original Y, not Y for Men. They did a new like Y for Men within the last 10 years. They also did Y Live. It looks like Y Live, which is one of the worst names for a fragrance of all time. But this fragrance is an absolute stunner. This is their first fragrance from 1964. It's basically this aldehydic green chypre, one of the best honeysuckle notes I've ever smelled in perfumery, with fruity peach and plum and this ambery benzoin-y, waxy styrax and civet. It is just amazing. But the aldehydic opening with gardenia and honeysuckle, just gorgeous. I mean, worst case scenario, I'll do a video based on this little bit of juice I have from the kindness of Rachel. Thank you, Rachel. But that really does deserve a full bottle. So good. And then I do have some Arige Ladores with some aldehydes in them. One is called Manly, and this was a duo creation with his stepbrother. And his stepbrother's name is Anton. His brand is Aton Perfumes, okay? Excuse me, you're going to have to bear with that because I'm still kind of getting over this. It's been almost a week and a half, and I'm still kind of getting over this crud that I got. It's very resilient. Usually my body just liquidates any intruders, but this one is, it's hanging around. I might have to grab a cough drop. But Manly is aldehydes, oak moss, patchouli, tobacco with cashmeran and leather and Indian oud. It's okay. It's not one of the best. It's not one of the best Arige Ladores, but it's grown on me. I don't necessarily dislike Manly. Let's put it that way. And then we've got a Roja that I have a review on the channel up on, and this is called L'Oscar pour Homme. So this was a fragrance that Roja actually did for a hotel chain called L'Oscar. And you can see I've got maybe enough for a spray or two left if I want to revisit this. But this is a good fragrance. I would wear this. I think this would work great in the summertime or spring. It's this spicy chypre with old school spicy carnation, which instantly captures my heart. And the note of Mayflower, which is very rare to see. And some aldehydes in the top, with this Cistus labdanum note. Really good stuff. I like it. I'm a fan. And then there's a perfume that I also have an early impression on, and you should go watch that video if you haven't, because there's an amazing unboxing early on in that video. I unboxed some unbelievable stuff from Italy, which is like a vintage lover's dream. There's so much good perfume. Vintage fragrance in Italy. It's unbelievable. And I should have done a separate video, but I just bunched it together and it became an afterthought, unfortunately. But this is Guerlain's Oud Cole. And Oud Cole has this strange aldehydic oud with this like burnt praline note and leathery thing going on. and maybe a little bit of oak moss. It is not good at all. This is not full bottle worthy. Do not give Guerlain $350 or whatever the hell they're asking for 100 ml of this. This is kind of sad to see the great house of Guerlain going down this pathway. I am not a fan of this at all, at all. But there are some aldehydes, so it deserves to be mentioned. And Frederic Malle has a fragrance called Une Fleur de Cassis, which this is the only version I've ever smelled. I have had some people tell me there have been reformulations with this. I don't know. All I know is this is like this animalic floral with some cumin and you know, there's this bitter cassis note, bitter cassis note that is mixed with these aldehydic fruity floral is basically what you smell. So you get a little bit of rose and violet and stuff like that. It does tend to smell a bit. I heard someone complain recently that it smells a bit like hand lotion, and it does. There is a bit of this lotion-like musky vibe. Excuse me, in the dry down. But it deserves to be mentioned. And then, here, let me grab this one real quick. I was not prepared, and it deserves to be spoken about. There's a Centauri Perfumes fragrance. This is Peter Carter's house, called Proxima. And Proxima came out in 2020, and it's kind of this fruity, fresh fragrance. I plan on doing an early impression on it very soon, probably next year when the weather turns warmer, because this is... you know, there's like a fresh air accord and aldehydes and berries and iris and rose and jasmine and musk. I think it's a warm weather scent, but I'm excited to talk about that one sometime soon. And next on the list, we've got a Guerlain, which again, I'm excited to talk about because this is done by one of my favorite perfumers, who is now at Chanel, but he did this for Guerlain before he became the in-house perfumer for Chanel, and it's Olivier Polge, the great Olivier Polge, and he put this out in 2005 for Guerlain. It's called Queer Beluga, and I have a 2 ml sample they sent me whenever I purchased the Shalimar Millésime Tonka bottle from them, which is not worth a full bottle in my opinion. I'd just much rather wear the regular Shalimar or even Vanisia. You know, Vanisia or Shalimar scratch my itch much better than Shalimar Millésime Tonka, but I bought into the hype. It's my fault. I heard some people say it was good, and I bought into it. But Queer Beluga is this aldehydic mandarin orange with patchouli, everlasting flower, amber, heliotrope, vanilla, and suede. So I'm very excited to give this a try, hopefully very soon. And then we have there's a fragrance from the house of Penhaligon's called Sartorial. I've got a 10 ml decant. As you can see, I've given it a fair amount of wearing, and I really like this. I do not like the house of Penhaligon's. To be fair, I haven't tried everything from the house, but their style, their marketing, you know, that kind of stuff never appealed to me. But Sartorial does. It is a clean... it's a very, I think this is a very modern take on a fougere. It's like this, it's also, I think it's also about a decade ahead of its time because this is Bertrand Duchaufour in 2010, 12 years ago, playing with this ozonic metallic notes that feels like you're, you know, pressing a hot iron against cloth. You know, it gives that feeling with a little bit of steam, this ozonic aldehydic violet leaf steam in the opening. And it's so posh, so professional. It's very mature. It really feels like a man that has his shit together. You know, it doesn't feel like you're smelling a juvenile when you smell this. Let's put it that way. There is this beautiful beeswax and lavender combination with leather, patchouli, myrrh, honey. I mean, it's Bertrand Duchaufour. What more can you ask for? I think it's probably the best Penhaligon's, but again, I have not smelled them all, so you'll have to kind of take that with a grain of salt. But the aldehydes in the top of Sartorial are absolutely beautiful. And then there is a There is a Arrogance Uomo, which I have a full review on. And this was a combination of Russian Adam and Sultan Pasha. And this is called Civet de Nuit. And you can go check out my video. There's actually an Arrogance Uomo playlist on my channel. If you're new to the channel, go check out my Arrogance Uomo reviews. This is heliotrope with aldehydes, civet, night blooming jasmine, ylang ylang, oak moss, benzoin, frankincense, tobacco, white ambergris, real white ambergris, castoreum, Mysore sandalwood, real Mysore sandalwood, styrax, labdanum, and musk. And you know, this reminded me of Le Bleu. It reminded me of a vintage Guerlain. It reminded me of someone who understands the past. You know, they understand where we came from to get here, and they respect the past and appreciate the past. And so to Sultan Pasha, I have to give him a hat tip for this. It is very good. I think it's misunderstood because when people saw the name civet, they thought it was going to be like Koros. It's not. This is like a 50 or 60-year-old civet, and it's different than any civet you've ever smelled. But if you like vintage Guerlains, you'll love this. This is fantastic. And speaking of vintage fragrances, there is a Jill Sander, again, full bottle worthy. Very hard to find a full bottle of this, but it came out in 1983. It's an animalic floral fragrance from the house of Jill Sander. It's called Woman 2. And again, I've got a video on this already on the channel, but Woman 2 is this aldehydic, fruity, green chypre with that Jill Sander castoreum. That's the only way I can describe it. They had the most unique castoreum. Somehow the castoreum didn't come across as dirty as smelling other castoreum scents at the time, and yet you could still completely and fully understand you're smelling an amazing high-quality castoreum, vintage castoreum note. I don't know how they did it. I think this is an amazing fragrance. I think pretty much any of the Jill Sander fragrances from the 80s are amazing, and even early 90s. But yes, I mean, if you like something like Schiaparelli's Shocking, if you like those kind of animalic floral fragrances, I think you would really like Woman 2. I really did. And then finally, we've got another Arrogance Uomo. This I want a bottle of very bad, but I can't find it, and it's sad because I missed out on my opportunity to buy a bottle of this. This is from 2021, and it's called Chinese Oud. And go check out my video on this. I fell in love with this even more after that video. I think on the video I kind of sort of appreciated it, but the more I kind of got to smell, Russian Adam sent me a whole bunch of real ouds, pure oud oils, and the more I got to experience the real thing, the more I truly believe that this is something very special, and I really do want a bottle of this. It's aldehydes, orange bergamot, Chinese oud, Chinese rose otto, Chinese jasmine absolute, Chinese gardenia CO2, Mysore sandalwood, Indonesian vanilla, oak moss, and patchouli. The aldehydes with the Chinese oud, and this is wild oud, not plantation grown. It is, for an oud lover, it is a stunner. It's a beautiful fragrance. Okay, let's get to the top. Let's get to the top 70, shall we? Number 70, we have a back-to-back Bogue MEM fragrances, and the reason they're here is because I struggle with the way that I struggle with the way this perfumer I just struggle with the way he makes perfume, to be honest with you. I need to get to know his stuff better, but it's like I almost never want to wear it. Number 70 is called MAAI from the house of Bogue MEM. So I was told that's how you pronounce that. It's not Bogue. It's actually Bogue MEM. And this is MAAI. And MAAI is another animalic floral, but it's got this very bracing, camphorous-like eucalyptus note that mixes with the aldehydes. And there's a huge retro, old-school tuberose note in here that, honestly, if I'm going to wear a tuberose note that big, I would rather just wear my vintage Poison. Honestly, I mean, if we're gonna talk about going that far down the floral slide, I'd rather just wear Poison. He also made one called MEM, and this is Antonio Gardoni, who made a fragrance called T-Rex, which I have a 10 ml decant of from Zoologist. I have not worn it yet, though. I haven't smelled it yet, but maybe I'll make that as my scent of the day and you know, enjoy that one day soon when I can work from home or on a weekend. But MEM is this, again, animalic floral, but with huge lavender. This is, the lavender in here really is something. It's lavender with ylang, damask rose. There's this peppermint-like vibe that, again, almost comes off slightly camphoraceous-like, even though it doesn't have the eucalyptus. The peppermint gives off that vibe. And it has this castoreum and civet. And strangely enough, this ethyl maltol kind of sweetness tends to come out. It's very strange fragrance. You know, this one maybe is a little easier for me to wear than MAAI, because MAAI has that giant tuberose note in it. But both of them, it's just his style, man. I need to try T-Rex too, but number 670 and 69 are MAAI and MEM. Number 68 is a vintage fragrance, and this is Arrogance Uomo. Now, these are going to be good fragrances. Again, you're going to find a lot of good fragrances in here. I'm not saying this is a bad fragrance at all. I'm just saying the way that they use the aldehydes in the top here put this at number 68. It's kind of mixed with Artemisia and lavender and sage, and I don't hate it. It has this Italian-like style is really what it has. 1987, it's kind of spicy, kind of woody. There's some oak moss and leather and castoreum in the base, and it does feel like you're smelling an 80s fragrance. The aldehydes just don't jump out to me in a way that I would put this any higher, but I enjoy it. I'm glad I have a bottle, and I do enjoy it. It's a 75 ml, and this is back when it was Schiaparelli Pickens distributor. Okay, so that was number 68. Number 67. Now, this fragrance is one of the few fragrances that has really challenged me. I mean, really challenged me. Like, you know, I've even thought about selling it, challenged me, okay? So here we go. This is a Histoires de Parfums, and it's called Rare Petroleum. Okay, so Rare Petroleum is this, it's basically this aldehydic oud opening is what you get. And, you know, this easily could have been higher if I enjoyed the opening. Look at the color of the juice. I need to force myself to wear this because it has this aldehydic orange. So the orange is very prominent with the aldehydes in the opening and the oud, much more than the bergamot. The bergamot kind of takes a little bit of a back seat, with a rose oud heart and a leather oud and civet and white musk and patchouli base. And the civet in the base and the oud and the aldehydes, sometimes when I've kind of sprayed, I haven't had the balls to wear this as my scent of the day yet, but I have worn it to bed many times. And sometimes it gives off this fishy-like accord that really bothers me. Other times, I think maybe I can start to stand it, and then it almost makes me sick to my stomach. So that's the reason it's lower. But if you like this, like if this was a love for you, this could be the #1 aldehyde fragrance for you. It is an insane concoction. I really do like the House of Histoires de Parfums. I think from this line, I prefer Ambrum or whatever it's called. Gerard Guisalane is the creative director. I don't know if he's also the perfumer or if he's just a creative director and they used perfumers that are not listed, but either way, I need to figure out if I'm going to come around on this or what. But Rare Petroleum from 2011 comes in at number 67. Number 66 is a fragrance that I got for super cheap. Excuse me, it was on one of the websites, Fragrance Net, Fragrance X, you know, FragranceBuy.ca, I forget which one, and they had these 50 ml vintage Cosmere. These are Cosmere bottles, distributed by Cosmere Inc., and they had them for like $6, right? Like, they were just getting rid of them. And I was like, Cosmere bottle? Hell yeah. So I grabbed like 4 or 5 of them for $6. I was like, screw it. And this is called Horizon by the house of Guy Laroche. You can see it kind of looks like a Drakkar Noir bottle. And this came out in the 90s when aquatics were the big thing, okay? This came out in 1993 to be exact. But in 1993, it was before the real aquatic wave hit. You know, it was before the true aquatics really took over in the mid-90s, okay? So there's aldehydes, there's green notes, and there's mint and artemisia and fennel and galbanum and bay leaf. And, you know, if you didn't see this bottle and you put this under someone's nose, maybe they'll get a little bit of this like sea salt, you know, briny like smell. You know, there's this like green briny like smell to the fragrance. But it's overshadowed by the greenness, the artemisia, the mint, the galbanum, the spicy pimento and thyme and pepper. It almost feels like it's the end of the 80s, not the 90s, you know. And I like this fragrance. I think this is a really good fragrance. Aquatics are not my thing, but when it's 100 degrees in Texas for 9 months straight, I mean, damn, sometimes you just got to whip out something that's weather appropriate. And sometimes you got to say, screw it, I'm wearing Overture Man in the height of summer. You know, that's just how it goes when you live in Texas. Okay, tried to commit suicide. He's okay. Get back here, buddy. All right. So, Horizon by Guy Laroche, number 66. Number 65 is a discontinued, extremely complex Chypre that I need to try to figure out. I still haven't put my finger on the pulse of what this is, other than it's extremely complex, extremely unique. I know I would rather have Ivoire de Balmain over this, but this is what I have. So, but I'm still glad to have this. It's called Ivoire de Balmain. By the way, I don't know if you guys ever kind of look at clothing from some of these houses, but I looked up a Balmain. I went to Balmain's website. If you ever get bored, just go do that. It's hilarious. Their t-shirts are like $850. They had like a $30,000 jacket on there or something. I was like, what the fuck? What is wrong with you people? So perfume is probably the only way that someone like me is ever going to own a Balmain product. But this is a creation by Michel Hai, who I'm not familiar with his or her work. And it's this aldehydic, spicy opening with two or three very unique notes. Chamomile is one of them, and asafoetida, is that how you pronounce it? I'm not familiar with that note at all. Asafoetida and Taguettes. Now Taguettes, I do know, that's marigold, and it has a very distinct, dry, almost brittle hay-like feel. And I know that's one of the perennial plants that mosquitoes and other bugs don't like. Like if you hang marigolds in your backyard or something, it'll keep the mosquitoes away. They do not like that smell. And other bugs as well. They don't like the smell of them. So this opens up very distinct, but it dries down to this traditional, old school, huge floral with this fruity patchouli, frankincense. I mean, it's very complex. Amber, oak moss, vanilla, vetiver. I mean, it's got like everything. So it's hard. It's hard to discern this fragrance, but if you're a fan of Chypres, it's one to sniff for sure. So Ivoire de Balmain at number 65. Number 64 is, I think, a big underrated leather fragrance, and it's called Dark Rebel Rider, a flanker to Dark Rebel. And this came out in 2016. It's now discontinued. It was marketed by Elizabeth Arden. I think when Revlon bought kind of the remnants of the John Varvatos house, they decided to keep some and discontinue others. And that's exactly what happened. But I do love this stuff. It's aldehydes, citron, bitter orange, saffron, marjoram, and hyssop with Florentine iris, osmanthus absolute, black violet, labdanum, Somalian frankincense, Sumatra benzoin, and Tolu balsam with Russian leather, cacao absolute, vanilla, atlas cedar, patchouli, and patchouli. And I even would go so far as to say that, you know, if you stuck this in like a Roja Dove bottle, I think people would not bat an eye. I mean, honestly, you can still find these bottles for 60, 70, 80 bucks in the aftermarket. Prices are starting to creep up. I think I got this for like 35. This is a 125 ml bottle. So I'm very glad to have it. And I love the presentation. I mean, how cool is that with the zippers, the leather jacket on the bottle? Just a great presentation. Wish I had a cap for it, but it's a tester. Okay, and then we've got a Parfums Wheel fragrance at number 63, and this is Zibeline. And I've shown this bottle off before, but Zibeline, this comes from Anuja's shop, Enchante. Look at that short ingredient list. I love it. Oh, you want ingredients, huh? It's fragrance, bitches. And Zibeline is another one that I kind of need to get to know a little bit better. It's a newer, within the last 6 months, I would say I've added this to the collection. And it is a spicy, animalic, honey, civet fragrance with this aldehydic bergamot and tarragon, coriander. So it's got a little spiciness to it. And then you get the floral heart of iris, gardenia, lily of the valley, rose, and ylang ylang. So interesting fragrance. I need to get to know it a little bit better. They did some sort of a reimagining of this fragrance where maybe within the last decade or so, I think they put out a fragrance by the same name that was completely different. So just be careful with that. Try to get one of the older fragrance bottles if you want, you know, this version. Okay, next on the ranked aldehyde, this is not a top 10 list, is number 62. And I think we have another discontinued fragrance here. This is from the house of Krizia, and this is called Krizia Uomo. So Krizia Uomo, to me, is basically a improved version of One Man Show. That's the way that I'd look at it. One Man Show came out in 1980 by Jacques Bogart, and the vintage One Man Show competes with this. The modern One Man Show is a joke. I don't think it's a good fragrance at all. I think they removed a large portion of the fragrance and just continued to sell it because it was kind of popular maybe, or whatever it was. I think they should have just discontinued it, to be honest with you. But this is this aldehydic, spicy, woody fragrance. Extremely masculine. So green. I mean, look at the bottle. It's so green. You know, it has that 80s green masculine feel to it. And it's good. I like it. I haven't fallen in love with it yet. I need to wear it more this this spring and summer. I need to force myself to wear this. That's when, let's see, Eau de Toilette. Oh yeah, there's a batch code down there. Never actually saw this before. It's like printed on underneath. It's hard to see. 071, 076, 03. Interesting. Okay, so anyways, Krizia Uomo. Nice aldehydic opening, but it really goes down into those heavy green. I mean, if you like that pine, artemisia, basil, juniper, you know, that kind of thing with a leathery base, you'll probably like Krizia Uomo. So that is number 62. Number 61 is a fragrance that I plan on talking about on the channel very soon. I hope to. There's a lot of stuff I want to talk about on the channel. As you can see, this is Guerlain's Rose Barbare. And this is a 10 ml bottle that I ended up getting. And Rose Barbare, I've had a chance to dab a little bit on my wrist before bed. And, you know, I really enjoyed it. I think it's up there with some of Francis Kirkjohn's better work. This is from 2005. It's like this aldehydic honeyed rose is the way I would describe it. An aldehydic honeyed rose. And it's good. It's a little bit powdery, okay? But that's okay. It doesn't ruin the scent or anything. It's very good. It's a very good rose. The problem is I have so many good rose fragrances nowadays that this I would not buy a full bottle of, but this 10 ml is perfect. More than enough for me to wear, get to know better, and talk about it on the channel. So, Rose Barbare comes in at number 61. Number 60 is probably one of the biggest oak moss fragrances I've ever smelled in my life. It is a oak moss bomb, and I've got about 5 of these little 10 ml discovery atomizers, if you want to call it that. This is R de Capucci. And so R de Capucci was actually put out, look at that, beautiful. Short ingredient list. R de Capucci was actually put out in 1985. Yeah, 1985. And the rumor is that it was put out by Francois Caron. Okay, there's no perfumer listed on Parfumo, so I don't know if that's true or not. But R de Capucci is this aldehydic, green, citrusy, spicy, slightly floral, but huge, mossy, you know, green, mossy dry down is the way I would describe it. It really works well in the rain. This type of heavy textured oak moss to me really works well in the rain. And it's just, yeah, I mean, if you really love oak moss, this is one to check out. Oh, crap. Tried to escape as well. What's going on? All my fragrances are trying to escape. Look at this weird little thing they have it in, though. Let's see if I can get this back in here. Oh, crap. Come on, baby. You're live on TV. Don't do this to me. Let's go. Go back to your home. What's the matter? Are you too good for your home? Okay, there we go. Okay, beautiful. So, R de Capucci, 1985, comes in at number 60. Number 59 is a fragrance that you really have to buy the specific version of. If you buy the reformulated one, if you buy the wrong one, you're going to hate it. And rightly so. The reformulation is a travesty. It's complete shit. Maybe one of the worst reformulations I've ever smelled, and that's saying something. Number 59 is Perry Ellis for men. And this is Cologne for men, okay? So make sure you get the one that says Cologne for men. If you get the one that says Perry Ellis for men Eau de Toilette, you'll hate it, okay? So make sure you get the Cologne. This is actually such a fantastic fragrance if you kind of know what to look for and you get the right one. I think there's a pretty big cumin note in here. Let me see if I can find the note listing real quick. Perry Ellis, 1985, Cologne for men. Yeah, galbanum, bergamot, clove. There's a big clove note. Rose, leather, moss, and vanilla. And I think there's cumin or some sort of heavy spice in the top as well. Probably cumin. It smells like there's cumin in the top with that leathery spiciness. And these older bottles are amazing. Sometimes you can find them for 20, 30 bucks. And it's a steal for this type of perfumery, this leather spicy aldehydic perfume. So Perry Ellis for men, number 59. Number 58 is a Puig fragrance, Antonio Puig, and this is another discontinued masculine, and this is called Sybaris. Sybaris for men from the late 80s, 88. And this is a spicy chypre, and it's a very good spicy chypre. It also has cumin, okay, in the top. I think the aldehydes are a little more turned up here. That's why I put it one step above Perry Ellis for men. This has cumin, artemisia, geranium, jasmine, juniper, carnation, sandalwood, cinnamon, amber, leather, moss, patchouli, vetiver, frankincense. So that aldehydic, cuminy, citrusy, green, basil opening thing is so 80s. And the first time I smelled it, I wasn't sure. I was like, I don't know about this one. The second time I smelled it, it grew on me even more. By the third or fourth time I sprayed this, I was like, yes, this is my kind of perfume. And it's a Rosendu Matu and Alberto Morias creation. So, good fragrance. Definitely one to check out. And again, sometimes you can find bottles of that stuff for very cheap as well. Okay, next on the list, we've got number 57. And we've got our first Roja. Roja Dove, and this is called Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now, this is discontinued as well, unfortunately. I've talked about this on the channel some, and I'll do a full review before this is gone. But Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is basically this fruity chypre. It's a very complex fruity chypre is basically what it is, with this aldehydic, citrusy, green Artemisia opening with lots of fruits galore. Apple and blackcurrant and strawberry and raspberry and plum and banana and I mean all this stuff. And around this time, 2015, 16, 17, he created a couple really good fruity chypres. He created Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and he also created Oligarch, which is now discontinued. I'm very happy to have Oligarch Eau de Parfum. And the dry down of this is violet leaf and cinnamon, pink pepper, clove, saffron, patchouli, oak moss, cedarwood, fir balsam, sandalwood, oud, cotton candy, very strange, vanilla, cacao, leather, and musk. There's all kind of stuff going on. It's like a celebration, and it's okay. I like it. Would I buy a full bottle? No, probably not, but I like it. I'd probably just wear Oligarch in the same scenario as Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Okay, number 56 is a Roja, probably one of the best cost for money citrusy fragrance that you can find, and this is Eau de Rochas pour Homme. Eau de Rochas pour Homme. And this came out in the 90s. This actually came out in 1993. 1994, Creed put out a fragrance called, oh man, what's that? I can see it. It's that yellow, shit, it's gonna drive me crazy. I gotta look it up. Neroli Sauvage, that's what it is. It's Neroli Sauvage. 1 year later, Creed put out Neroli Sauvage. It smells so close to the vintage of Eau de Rochas Homme. It's not even funny. And this can be had for $20, you know, and the Creed is now $500. Insane value for money here. This is Aldehydes, basil, bergamot, lime, mandarin orange, and lemon vervain. Beautiful opening, so classy in the heat. But there is a big floral heart. There's freesia, carnation, jasmine, lily of the valley, rose, violet, coriander, a little bit spicy, a little bit herbal, a little bit floral, with that amber, oak moss, musk, vetiver, and cedar. But the citrus top in this is one of the best. And it was created by Gilles Romney in 1993. And so that aldehydic citrus opening is a stunner. Eau de Rochas pour Homme, number 56. Number 55 is a Tat Libre d'Orange again. And this is a vintage bottle of Tom of Finland. And look at the color of that juice. The new Tom of Finlands are kind of clear, but I hear the smell is the same, but I'm not 100% sure. I've never smelled the new one. Although I may have a decant someone sent me. I can't remember. I think so, though. Maybe I'll do a comparison video one day. So Tom of Finland came out in 2008, and it's this aldehydic, lemony opening. It almost smells like you're smelling like an aldehydic, like a lemony Pop-Tart or something, right? Lemony Pop-Tart, and then you get this like birch leaf, so it's a little smoky with green pine, pepper, vanilla, ambergris, and suede. The vanilla is turned up in this fragrance a little more than I would like, and maybe that's why the color of the juice darkened because of the vanilla. But I like it, okay? I like it. I don't love it. But the aldehydic lemony thing in the opening is kind of unique. So Tom of Finland, number 55. Number 54 is an Ungaro, and this is Diva. So this is the Eau de Parfum. This is the vintage Parfums Ungaro before they, you know, sold out to Salvatore Ferragamo Group. And Diva comes in at number 54. It's a Jacques Polge from 1983. If you love Chanel Coco, you'll love Diva. It's got this aldehydic, spicy cardamom, coriander, you know, spicy, citrusy opening with just this lovely floral heart and this honeyed, irisy, civet, dry down. It is so posh, absolutely posh to the T. Kind of like Vanisia, you know, just because these are marketed towards women, do not let that put you off, fellas. I'm telling you. Some of the best smelling fragrances in my collection are women targeted releases. So Diva by Parfums Ungaro comes in at number 54. Number 53 is one of the few bottles in my collection that I did not buy with my own money. This was very kindly sent to me by, I think it was Heinke. I hope you're doing well, Heinke, wherever you are. Thank you very much for this. And this is called Explosive. So Explosive is this fragrance that many people thought was like a cheapie or whatever. They thought it was like a drugstore fragrance or whatever it was. And I think this stuff is amazing. I absolutely love the interplay between the aldehydes, the floral heart, and this animalic, spicy, mossy, patchouli, ambergris like dry down. It smells so high class compared to what it's sold for. It is discontinued, unfortunately, but bottles can still be had for a decent price because it was a cheapie. So Explosive, and I think the old bottles, this came out in 86, okay? So the old bottles before they were called Explosive were called Provocation. So if you find Eigner Provocation, apparently it's the same thing, just an older version of Explosive. Okay. Next on the list is a fragrance that just entered my collection this week. I've worn it to bed a couple times, so I got a little sense of the fragrance, and you can see how high I put it instantly above many others. And maybe it could even go even higher. But if you watched my live stream on the Bortnikov early impressions, this fragrance was in the box that I said, oh shit, my wife ordered something. And it's not for me. It's not perfume. How did this get mixed in here? And I threw the box, thought it was something else. They wrapped it in a different packaging, a different box. They tricked me. It was perfume. It was for me. And this is called Fendi for women from 1987, I believe. And I got a great deal on this too. This fragrance was posted on Mercari for more than double what she ended up selling it to me for. And I, you know, kind of watched the price just go down. And finally, once it got to a point where I couldn't say no, I had to make her an offer even lower than what it was posted at. And she was like, yeah, sure, whatever, just trying to sell it. And so I got a great deal on this. This is this aldehydic spicy chypre. So there's cardamom and spices and rosewood and aldehydes and a beautiful floral heart. And what sets this fragrance apart is there's cypress in the mid, which is a masculine note to me. And there's leather and spices and patchouli and oak moss. And I think this is completely unisex. But if you like fragrances for women from the 80s, you know, if you like the Teatro alla Scala, Coco, Ungaro Diva, that kind of stuff, Explosive, check this one out. Put this one on the list. This is very, very good. I've worn it to bed a couple times, and I can vouch for it. It's very good. Fendi for women from 1987. 1988, 1 year later, this one came out. And this is number 51 on the countdown. This is Aramis New West. So these two right here share a little something in common. Okay, New West from the 80s and Horizon from the early 90s. And New West just has a little more. It has a little something extra to me. And again, I've worn this to bed a couple times, waiting for the warmer weather to actually give it a full wear. It's this aldehydic mugwort, green, you know, caraway, minty, marine note fragrance, but it's done in the late 80s style. You know, so there's geranium and jasmine, coriander, bay leaf, pine, juniper. There is this watermelon note, which is probably an aldehyde to create that watermelon note. Amber, oak moss, leather, musk, patchouli, sandalwood, and cedar. And this is how I like my aquatic fragrances. I like there to be more. I like sandalwood. I like woods. I like green notes. I don't just like aquatic, okay? I don't just like salty aquatic. I like more. So this shocked me how good this was. And this is just a modern bottle. This is not a vintage. So New West from the House of Aramis comes in at 51. Number 50 is a Hermes, and this is called Calèche. This is a vintage bottle of Calèche. And look how they used to put the batch codes on in the old days. Look at that. I love that. Calèche is a beautiful, beautiful fragrance. This easily could have been higher. I don't know it as well as I'd like to, so it's hard for me to vouch for it. But from what I remember, from memory, you know, if you like stuff like Amouage Gold, right? If you like Arpege, which is much higher on the list by Lanvin, this is right up your alley. Aldehydic, floral, there's freshness of neroli with cypress again, iris, jasmine, gardenia, lily of the valley, rose, ylang ylang, amber, oak moss, musk, sandalwood, tonka, vetiver, and cedar. And the aldehydic opening is absolutely stunning. It's just, there's something about this DNA, and it's going to be the same when we get to Chanel number 5, that just doesn't, most people would think, oh, this is going to be right at the top, but not for me. Not for me. For whatever reason, not for me. It doesn't move me in the way you would expect it to. So, Calèche comes in at number 50. Number 49. Number 49, we have a Romeo Jiggly fragrance. And where is it? Did I grab it? Am I losing my mind? Yes, here we go. Sorry. I am losing my mind. It is 11 o'clock at night here in Texas. It is Romeo Jiggly per Uomo, the green juice. So underrated. These vintage bottles of Romeo Jiggly per Uomo, while the bottle is cool, yes, it is. Okay, that's how you open it. The juice inside is even better. And this is an Alberto Morillas. This came out in 1991. It's this spicy, woody, fruity, amazing aldehydic cinnamon with tarragon. Tarragon is a winning note for me in the opening with honey. So it's like this honeyed cinnamon. And there's just something about early 90s cinnamon. I don't know what it is about it. Balenciaga Pour Homme, this, Witness by the house of Jacques Bogart. If you've ever smelled Witness, man, something about the honey in these, or the cinnamon in those early 90s fragrances just does something to me. And this has this ambery benzoin patchouli dried out. It's so beautiful, so posh, and so different from what everyone else is wearing. I absolutely love it. So Romeo Jiggly per Uomo, but that aldehydic, citrusy, fruity lavender thing in the opening is beautiful. Number 48, we have a Givenchy, and this is one from the master Dominique Ropion, and this is a vintage bottle of Isatis de Givenchy, and you can see the short ingredient list. My God, man, this stuff is a proper floral chypre. Many times when you see coconut in a note listing, it is actually meant to be castoreum, like it's a mistake. This is actually coconut. So there's coconut, aldehydes, galbanum, Brazilian rosewood, bergamot, neroli, orange blossom, citruses with honey, gigantic floral note, all the florals you can think of: narcissus, Egyptian rose, Florentine iris, jasmine, tuberose, ylang ylang, with this civetty, oak mossy, clovey, and even a note of bay rum, which I must admit I don't get, but this fragrance does give me like a celebratory like vibe. It really does feel like you're at a wedding, or you're at a reception for someone who just graduated, or, you know, it's happy days. It really does give me that feel, and it's beautiful, and it's so underrated. You know, people will pay $2,000 for the night, but they won't pay $100 for a vintage bottle of Isatis. Come on. Priorities. Number 47 is another Aramis. Aramis, litters this list, and this is Havana from 1994. So Havana was a perfume combination of two people, Nathalie Feisthauer and Xavier Renard. And this is this aldehydic green, spicy, again, tarragon with tobacco, leather, oak, balsam firs, cinnamon, all kind of stuff. It's basically this spicy, woody. If you've ever smelled if you've ever smelled fragrances like Pierre Cardin's Enigma, imagine Enigma without the clove note so amped up. Or imagine Montana Parfum Dome without the, Montana Parfum Dome focuses more on the leather. This focuses a little bit more on the tobacco. But of course, it's an Aramis, and all Aramises I found in the Gentleman's Collection have a little bit of that aldehydic opening. I think it's like a, salute to Bernard Chant, who I just did a perfumer's portfolio video on maybe within the last month. You can go check it out. And, he was one of the masters of aldehydes, if not the master. He may be the best aldehydic perfumer of all time, objectively. And he probably should have had one of his creations at number 1, but it didn't work out that way because I had to be honest with myself. There is one aldehydic fragrance that just moves me that just needed to be right where it was. So we'll get there soon. Number 46 is, this is a Cosmere bottle of Minotaur. And Minotaur is this beautiful fruity green tarragon aldehydic galbanum with coriander and another floral heart, amber musk, sandalwood, tonka, vanilla, and cedarwood. And it's a little sweet. I will give you that. The fruits, I think, give off this sweetness, as does the vanilla. But it's so beautiful, so wearable in the heat. The new one from L'Oreal is kind of butchered. If you can find a Cosmere bottle, go for it. If you like this kind of stuff, this could be a favorite of yours. Really like this scent for the warm weather. The aldehydic fruity green opening is just stunning. Now, this is one people probably thought would be number 1 on the list, and it's just not for me. It's the same thing I could say with Kalesh. This DNA could easily be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for many people. It's not for me. This is number 5. Number 5 comes in at number 45. And number 5 is this aldehydic floral that everyone knows. And it's not that it's a bad fragrance or anything, but for some reason that DNA, that old school DNA, I struggle with just a little bit. Aldehydes and ylang ylang and lily of the valley, rose, jasmine. It's just, again, not a bad fragrance. Ernst Boe was the other master of aldehydes, but number 5 for me, maybe if I got a bottle that was in better shape. I think this one's lost a little bit of its touch. I mean, look at it. It's definitely seen some things. But it is, you can still definitely tell it's number 5. It's the Eau de Cologne version, which I like a little bit more because it has a little more of that rough civet, dry down, if you will. A little bit of vetiver. It's a little more masculine. Let's put it that way. So I like the Eau de Cologne. Maybe I should try to hunt down a bottle that's in a little better shape. Okay, number 44. Oh, my voice is starting to go. Number 44 is a fragrance from the house of Parfums Grey, and this is Cabochard. So this is the great Bernard Chant, and this is this aldehydic, tarragon, fruity, herbal, sage, spicy chypre with powdery orris and castoreum and tobacco, and it really does give off this, woman sneaking away to have a cigarette vibe to me. It smells like you're smelling it on her clothes afterwards, mixed with perfume. And I really do like this. It's just, I like a fragrance that has this DNA even better. It's much higher on the list. If you guys know me, you know which one that is. But Cabochard is still worth a sniff. And I hear the new one is very good. I need to, procure a bottle of that, I suppose. Number 43 is a fragrance that really grew on me fast. I wore it to bed once or twice, and it's called Sacred Scarab from the House of Zoologist. And Sacred Scarab, I need to do a video on this very soon because this is very unique. This is the type of perfumery that deserves to be highlighted. This is Sultan Pasha again. And, you know, interestingly enough, he did a video or an interview with Eugene. And Eugene asked him to name 3 brands that he would like to work with. And he named the exact 3 brands. I think one was Amouage, one was Guerlain, you know, and it was just, I think I forgot what the other one was, but I was thinking, man, he is like spot on with the brands I would love to see him work for. But Sacred Scarab is this spicy animalic fragrance that reminds me slightly of a fragrance we're going to talk about later on, but it's this aldehydic, boozy wine-like civet note with a very unique blue lotus flower, which is not used very often. I think Bortnikov uses blue lotus very well. And this strange, like, galbanum, frankincense, you know, raisiny, resinous myrrh, benzoin, styrax, that wine note really tends to kind of, it really tends to, like, stay. It doesn't disappear. That boozy wine, plum-like, you know, animalic wine note sticks around. It's really good. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to try to talk about it on the channel very soon. So Sacred Scarab from this year, from 2022. That would probably be, in my opinion, runner-up for best fragrance of the year to La Dernière Exquise from Les Substrates. Okay, number 42. And we're back to Roja Dove. And this is Chypre Extraordinaire. And even though I don't like this fragrance necessarily, it's not my favorite type of Chypre. I like my Chypres to be much dirtier. This is way too clean. Granted, the floral heart that it focuses on is beautiful. Yes, absolutely, it is. But the aldehydic opening is stunning in this fragrance. You just have to give it a nod. You know, they did an amazing job with the aldehydes in the top of this. And I just like my cumin, my civet, my, you know, animalic notes more. Now, the iris in here is beautiful. I will tell you that. The iris is stunning. As is the Cistus labdanum, which he always does very well in his fragrances. But it's not my favorite Chypre. I want more. You know, I want more dirtiness. I want more animalic. This is too safe for me. This is too... this would smell amazing on a woman in a power suit who is like CEO. You know, if you're CEO of Kraft Foods or something, this is what you wear. Okay, so that was 2018. Chypre Extraordinaire at number 42. Number 41. And again, this could have even been higher on the list. The aldehydes in this are stunning. But there's going to be, we're getting to the big hitters now. This is 1989. This is Sung Om by the House of Alfred Sung. And the aldehydes in this are amazing. Oh, God, it's so clean and soapy. And I think the aldehydes play a big part of that. I have a modern bottle. I have a vintage. This is from Riviera Concepts Inc. in Toronto. And now it's marketed by Revlon. I don't know if the modern one I have is Revlon or if it's one version before Revlon. All I know is if you like soapy, you know, clean, if you like the way Prada does fragrances, this is one to check out. But there are green, Artemisia, basil, juniper, caraway, and there's some oak moss and leather and stuff like that. It really feels like an 80s fragrance, but very like this very high class bar of soap. And the aldehydes play a big part in that. You know, it's very fresh and clean, but in an interesting way. I really like Sung Om. Best from the house, absolutely, by far. Number 40. Again, this is another example of a fragrance that I don't necessarily like. It would not be this high if I was ranking it based on liking the fragrance. But I have to give it props. The aldehydes in the top are stunning. And even though it's not my favorite, it deserves to be here. This is Equipage by Hermes. So this is a vintage bottle. Someone told me that I should get a new bottle because it's even better. There is something in this that kind of puts me off. And I guess Jean-Claude Elena kind of fixed that with the newer bottles. So I need to kind of hunt down one with the black cap. But this is this aldehydic bergamot with mace, clary sage, orange, and rosewood. And it does give you this outside vibe because there's pine and carnation and oak moss and patchouli and vetiver and stuff like that. It gives you this outside vibe. I much prefer Equipage Geranium, to be honest with you. I think that's a better flanker. But if we're just talking about the aldehydes, this has to be where it's at. Beautiful, beautiful aldehydic opening. Although to me, it does open up a little... for a vintage lover, this is hard to say, but it opens a little too vintage, which I know that's not a thing. It's just the style of the fragrance. But I need to try to sniff the new one. Okay, next on the list, we've got number 39. And this is an amazing fragrance. This is also kind of one of those fragrances where you could probably write a dissertation on this because it really feels like even in 1980, you can see the trend. This is before Antaeus and before Koros, but you can see the trend of things getting a little cleaner and a little soapy. And even though this has anise and galbanum and sage and caraway and basil and all these traditional masculine notes, it's got leather, labdanum. It doesn't have the castoreum of like Antaeus or the civet of Koros or anything like that. But the aldehydes and the lavender add this traditional masculine cleanness. I've even heard people compare this to Sauvage Elixir, which I think is ridiculous. This blows Sauvage Elixir away. But this is a great fragrance. It's from the year 1980. It's Oscar de la Renta Pour Louis. If you can find an older bottle that says Sanofi Beauty. Sanofi is one. I forget what the other one is. Oh, man. It's too late. My head's hurting. Can't think of it. It's on the tip of my tongue. Oh, well. If you can find one of the older bottles like this, do it. But even the new stuff is good. And the fragrance is now discontinued, period, unfortunately. So get what you can get. Get whatever you can get. According to Parfumo, Oscar de la Renta Pour Louis is discontinued. I'm so glad to have this bottle. Yeah, there's just this. The aldehydes and the green notes and the bergamot and lavender add this classy cleanliness to it. Even though there is some dirtiness, okay? It is the 1980s, but you can already begin to see things going in a little different direction, even here, even in 1980. So... Oscar de la Renta Pour Louis comes in at number 39. Number 38. I love this fragrance. I think it's one of the best. There's really only a couple from this DNA I would even compare this to each other with. But this is a Gerard Anthony, one of the all-time greats. This is Salvador by Salvador Dali, one of the most beautiful bottles you will ever lay eyes on, with that blue gem as a cap and Salvador Dali's artwork in the middle with the lips, just beautiful. There's something so beautiful about this bottle, timeless. You know, I wish they took time to make bottles like this nowadays. And this is a celebrity fragrance, a freaking celebrity fragrance, you know. Number 38 is Salvador by Salvador Dali because this has this green aldehydic opening that will remind you of a fragrance coming up later. I will talk about that when we get there. This came out in 92. It's spicy and leathery, but not as leathery as the one we're going to talk about, and also not as in-your-face green. You know, the other one we're going to talk about almost goes like cannabis green. This stays a little more traditional. It will remind you a little more of things... It'll remind you a little more of things like Heritage by Guerlain. It'll remind you maybe a little bit of things like YSL Jazz or Escada Pour Homme, or that category I love so much. But it's also leaning close to this other fragrance we're going to talk about very soon. So, Salvador by Salvador Dali from 1992. And then we've got number 37 on the list. Oh boy. And this is a big hitter, and I made a mistake. I made a big mistake. So when Rich Mitch sent me that haul, that one of our fragrant friends traveled across the ocean with for me, you know who you are. Thank you very much for that, my friend. he offered me a bottle of this for a good price, and I turned it down just because I didn't want to keep throwing money at a haul I wasn't sure if I was ever going to receive. I should have bought it. It was a mistake, because I wish I had that backup bottle now. But this is Ted Lapidus Pour Homme from 1978. And Ted Lapidus Pour Homme is, I mean, look at this. Look at this. Look at this presentation. There's the little atomizer. There's the sprayer. Oh, I should have bought a. This is only a 20. This is only a 30 ml bottle. I should have bought that 50 ml. It comes with a pen, which is pretty badass. Which I really kind of want to use, but I also don't in the same respect. But Ted Lapidus Pour Homme is amazing. I love it. I should have bought that backup. It's from 1978. It's leathery and spicy with this aldehydic, spicy like thyme, aldehydes, clove, leather, and the spruce note. Beautiful spruce with vintage castoreum and musk and labdanum, oak moss, and frankincense. And it is my kind of fragrance through and through. So I really feel like I made a little bit of an error not picking up that backup. But at that time, I didn't know for sure if the haul was ever going to reach me. So I was worried I was, throwing good money after bad, and then we'd have to, sell it on eBay and get the money back. And so I was like, I passed on it. But it was a mistake. That was a big mistake. I should have bought the backup. It's very, very good. It's backup bottle worthy. Let's put it that way. Okay, that was number 38. Number 37 is, sorry, that was number 37. Number 36 is one of my favorite honeyed patchouli fragrances, and it's Giorgio for Men. And this is a vintage bottle. Rumor is the new ones are not good. I thought they were, but they're not, is what someone told me the other day in the comments. Giorgio for Men is officially discontinued anyways. Excuse me. But it's this aldehydic orange pimento. Pimento is a very interesting note because it shows up in some of the most popular fragrances of all time, like Patou Pour Homme for Men, that kind of thing. And there's this aldehydic, citrusy, fruity thing that you kind of get in the opening, but it quickly dissolves into this honeyed patchouli with old school carnation and cinnamon and this warmth, oak moss and benzoin, and I just absolutely love this stuff. I'm so glad to have a bottle. So there you have it. Giorgio for Men. God damn it. These little samples are just not going to stand up. Okay. Next on the list, we have number 35, and this is Lagerfeld Cologne. Now, this is the modern classic, Lagerfeld Classic. I would tell you to go for the Lagerfeld Cologne. I think it's more on the tobacco and the masculine oak moss and stuff. This is more with those kind of removed, but this is still a very good fragrance, and this is discontinued. So if you can find it, get it. Just get it. Get whatever version you can find. This bottle that's a modern that I think is good is from Inter Parfums. I think they do good reformulations. And this is this aldehydic, orangey oriental. So look at the color of the juice. It really does smell that way. It has this orange line running through the middle with tobacco, and it's powdery from orris root, amber, oak moss, musk, tonka, and vanilla. I love this stuff. I love, the old bottles were not plastic. They were metal, so when you pulled this off, it would go clink, and Karl Lagerfeld designed this design himself. Iconic. Just a classic, man. I love Lagerfeld. Lagerfeld Classic comes in at number 35. Number 34 is a Dior, and it's a woman's fragrance, and it's called Dune for Women. This fragrance is stunning. It almost, when you first spray, when the aldehydes kind of hit you, when you first spray this this scent, you almost get this like aldehydic frankincense to my nose. But I think it's the interplay between the aldehydes, the Brazilian rosewood, and the peony, which peony is a very rare flower to see used because They're extremely beautiful smelling, but they're really soft. So you really have to get right on a peony to smell it. But they mix this with jasmine, lily, rose, treacle mustard, ylang ylang, ambergris, benzoin, oak moss, musk, patchouli, sandalwood, and vanilla. And it is beautiful. I mean, I love this. I'm so glad I have an older bottle that says Christian Dior. I think the new ones just say Dior, if I'm not mistaken. I think they just say Dior. But either way, I'm happy to have it. And Dune is amazing. So yeah, I don't really know how to tell. I think that the newer ones just say Dior, not Christian Dior. Okay, next on the list we have number 33, and this is a special fragrance. It even says it in the name. This is Giorgio for Men VIP Special Reserve. Now, this is getting hard to find. I would urge you to buy this if you can find it. There is this lovely, spicy, aldehydic opening with mandarin orange, carnation, iris, patchouli, rose, sandalwood, cedar, and cinnamon with this ambery, leathery, mossy dry down. But here's the thing. There's no honey in this. So unlike Giorgio for Men, the VIP Special Reserve takes the honey out, okay? And what it does is it adds this very posh note of this powdery iris. And it's so high class, so professional. This came out in 87. Lovely. My kind of scent. Absolutely beautiful. Excuse me. Okay. Number 32. Number 32 is a Guerlain. And, you know, if you put this number 1, I wouldn't be mad at you at all. But for me, it's number 32. It's Weil Zibeline. This is the Eau de Toilette. I love the Eau de Toilette. Spicy, woody galbanum with this floral aldehyde thing going on. And you can smell the aldehydes well into the dry down of Weil Zibeline. It almost gives it this airy, the aldehydes in here are very important to the fragrance because it almost gives it, you know, Weil Zibeline is all about night flight. In the 30s, they were all about flying. Flying was like the big thing back then. It was new, right? And I would love one of those Parfum bottles, the ones with the propeller on the front, the X-ray. I've never smelled an X-ray of Weil Zibeline, by the way, but I would love to one day. But the way that the iris and the narcissus, the green spices, the oak moss with the aldehydes, and it's such a artistic, creative, amazing fragrance. Weil Zibeline by Guerlain. Number 31 is the Great Youth Dew by Estee Lauder. And imagine this is how our grandmothers smelled. I mean, just imagine that they smelled this good. Youth Dew is this one of the, you know, an Oriental that just kind of set the trend, you know. And I've done this connections video in perfume, and I need to do, I'm going to make a note of this because I need to do a connection video on this one right here, because it really kind of set the, this is like a reference Oriental, if you will. And it opens up with this aldehydic lavender, which is traditionally a masculine opening. Aldehydes, lavender, with a little bit of peach. And if you've smelled things that came after this in the Oriental category, which there's one that's much, much higher on the list, I like the aldehydes in that even more. You'll appreciate this. But the oak moss, the tolu balsam, the Peru balsam, this is amazing. And there is this slightly cola-like vibe to this fragrance. Spicy Oriental clove and is very prominent. This is a fragrance that punches way, way, way above its weight class. So don't think, oh, our grandmother smelled like you do and write it off. I'm telling you, Do not do that. This is one of the best Orientals money can buy. Youth by Estee Lauder. And then we're going to go to number 30. And this is Safari for men. I love Safari. I have a backup of Safari. Safari is very close to my heart. There was a photo shoot that Ralph Lauren did in Africa called the Safari Collection, where they were on the savannah in Africa doing the shoot. Amazing. And if you've ever seen the box has this leathery like background. This looks like a whiskey decanter or something, but the box has this leathery like design. And there is a leather dry down in this, but there's this green aldehydic lavender opening that will remind you of scents like YSL Jazz and many of the other ones I've talked about before. Escada Porom, Guerlain, Heritage. They're all in this kind of DNA in the late 80s, early 90s. And this is very special. I love Safari. Huge fan. Okay. A newer discovery by me is a Tat Libre d'Orange, and I love this stuff. I think I like it even more than the regular Rien. I think this is probably more challenging to wear than the regular Rien because it almost smells like there's this vintage castoreum note in here, which I would think it would be a little harder for someone to wear this than the regular Rien, but it's I think both of them are amazing fragrances. This is Rien Intense Incense, and I bought this off of a friend who gave me a very, very fair price. He gave me mates rates. I love this. Frankincense, rose, leather, iris, cistus labdanum, oak moss, patchouli, amber, cumin, black pepper, and aldehydes. What a fragrance. Rien Intense Incenses. And if you love vintages, okay, if you love vintage fragrances, you have to get your nose on Rien Intense Incense. Number 28 is a Guerlain. This has shot up the charts lately. I've been wearing it to bed. I think I'm starting to kind of wrap my head around it. It's very deep and challenging, and there's so many layers. If you've ever seen the bottle, the upside down heart with all of the jagged little lines, there are so many layers to this fragrance. And this is called Chamade by Guerlain. And Chamade, this is the Eau de Toilette from the 80s. It's this aldehydic floral, but unlike any floral you've ever smelled, except for one. There's one other fragrance that this reminds me of, with that beautiful lilac note that you'll have smelled in Mitsuko. And there's always little teasers to previous Guerlains I've noticed. So the lilac note will remind you a bit of Mitsuko, with this green galbanum and spicy clove and this benzoin-like ambery tolu balsam, vanillic, the Guerlain dry down. But that opening is almost like I could spray this for 1,000 years and never figure it out. There's like this weird aldehydic hyacinth, jasmine, rose, sprightly bergamot thing going on. And it's very unique, extremely unique. And I'm beginning to really grow fond of it. It took me a little bit. The first time I sprayed it, I didn't like it. And now that my nose has been adjusting over the last, 6, 7, 8 months, it's really grown on me. So Chamade comes in at number 28. Number 27 is a Givenchy. What a fragrance this is, man. This is Givenchy number 3. One of the best Chypres I've ever smelled. So this is what the vintage bottles look like. This is a tester that Anuj found for me. And Givenchy number 3 is discontinued, but I think they reformulated it or repackaged it. It's this aldehydic green galbanum and peach with this classic Chypre heart and dirty castoreum and real ambergris and oak moss dry down. It does remind me a little bit of YSL from 1964, which I talked about earlier on the when we did the honorable mentions. So yes, but Givenchy 3, if you're a Chypre lover, you have to try to get your nose on that bad boy. Okay, number 26, and this fragrance is stunning. It may even be better than the men's. I don't know yet. I haven't decided, but it came out in 1982. and it won bottle of the year, actually. This is KL by Lagerfeld for women. And this is this spicy oriental that, God, the orange, the spices and the orange and the oriental, vibe with that animalic 80s civet is, how can you improve on this? I mean, it is so good. It's definitely worth. I hear there's an X-ray too, which I would love to sniff one day. But KL by Lagerfeld from 82 comes in at 26. Number 25 is a Jean Patou, and this is Joy Parfum. Now, this is the epitome of an aldehydic floral. Again, if you put this as number 1, I would not blame you one bit. Not one bit at all. Look at this. I mean, this is so fun to wear. Wearing this is like you're spraying on like a forbidden fruit. It is, I've heard Persolays describe this as feeling a carpet where each little crinkle of the carpet that you're feeling just goes on and on and on and on. And the depth of this fragrance is like that. And that's a great descriptor, actually. It really is. This is this amazing aldehydic. If you like Amouage Gold, even Gold Man, if you like Amouage Gold Man, you'll love this. The civet and the dry down, the aldehydic, florals with the orris and orchid and rose, and it's just, I mean, one of the most iconic animalic floral fragrances money can buy. So, and I think it's discontinued. Believe it, I think it's shockingly discontinued. Okay, number 24 is a fragrance from the house of, I wonder if I left this one out. Let's see, is it back here? Yes, it is. This is Bogue MEM. So Bogue MEM at number 24 is, I've talked about Bogue before, but it's this aldehydic lavender bergamot honey fragrance. Honey's a big player in Bogue. It's a Raymond Chailan creation, who is one of the all-time like Hall of Fame VIP old school perfumers. He did Balenciaga Hohang, which is, many consider that to be one of the greatest fragrances of all time. And there's this leathery patchouli-like dry down, but the honey, I'm telling you, the honey in this with the aldehydes is stunning, and it adds this freshness. It really does. Number 23 is the only fragrance Pierre Bourdon ever used aldehydes with. And in fact, I saw an interview with him where he said that he doesn't understand aldehydes. They just don't make sense to him. This is YSL's Koros. So we used it on the very first one. And this is a Charles of the Ritz bottle, but anything you can get that has the silver shoulders, you're good. That's it. That's all you need. Oh my God. Oh, every time I smell that, I just want to wear it, But there's this aldehydic, clean, dirty combination with that fragrance that just sets it apart. Number 22 is a Montana, and this is Parfum D'Homme. So Parfum D'Homme, I mean, there's a lot of different versions of this, okay? So, the new one that they put out is a little different from the vintage, but I think they're all good. I mean, some people say the new one is a travesty, and I understand where they're coming from. It's discontinued now, so I'd say just get whatever you can get. But there's this aldehydic lavender with peppery tarragon and pine, and it really focuses on this leathery dry down, whereas Havana goes the tobacco route. This really focuses more on the leather and the spices and the woods, and I'm a big fan of that fragrance. I have 3 bottles now, so I'm happy. Number 21 is a Krizia fragrance, and it's actually called Crazy Krizia. And this is a Dominique Ropillon creation. And I actually think that this is extremely underrated. I think that Krizia could compete with any of those Oriental fragrances, but the way I would describe it is the spicy Oriental with this aldehydic green fruity opening that feels like it meshes Must de Cartier with Obsession. You know, it really feels like it's a blend of those two. This came out in 91, but it's Dominique Ropillon. And, you know, people go crazy for his fragrances. So it's just, it's a little strange that this isn't hyped up more, because this is, they use such high quality ingredients, Krizia did. So it's a shocker that's not hyped up more. Number 20 is a Lanvin, and this is called My Sin, or Oh My Sin, you might see it referred to as. Lanvin is a house that does not get enough love. This is a very old bottle, but this is one of the best animalic floral fragrances I think I've ever smelled. And it just has this, how would you describe this? God, there's something naughty. There's something dirty about the fragrance, and I love it for it. I love that. I love the fragrance for that. You know, it's this aldehydic, clary sage, sweaty. It's like this sweaty, aldehydic, spicy, dirty fragrance. You know, like a cat that hasn't bathed itself properly, and it's got that animalic, floral fuzziness about it. Waxy Styrax and Tolu Balsam. Oh, God. I love this stuff, man. I'm a huge, huge fan of My Sin by the House of Lanvin. Hard to find, though. But if you can find a bottle that's intact and you love old fragrances, you will not be let down by this. I am a little let down that my bottle of Monsieur Lanvin is bad, though. That's a little sad. All right, number 19 is an Alain Delon, and this is called Alain Delon from 1980. This one says classic. The older bottles don't say it. I have both. I actually prefer this one, believe it or not. Oh, God. There is something amazing about the aldehydes in this. This aldehydic, like, spicy, but also classy lavender, herbal lavender, with like the freshness of juniper. Juniper adds this freshness. So imagine you take fresh juniper and mix it with the aldehydes, but it dries down to this piney, honeyed vintage oak moss. I mean, it is classic. It's very classic. It's amazing. I love it. Alain Delon Classic from 1980. Number 18 is a Dior. And this is the only one that can compete with Chamade. This is the only fragrance I've ever smelled that smells anything like Chamade, and it came out exactly the same year, 1969. This is Dior Essence. And some people say that this is one of the biggest ambergris fragrances ever used. That Guy Robert found this chunk of ambergris, and when he washed his hands with this knockoff Dior soap in Paris, when he was fretting over what he's going to make Dior Essence smell like, it hit him. That's what he wanted to make it smell like. To me, it smells like a fragrance with multiple parts. You know how I said Chamade has these, these ridges where water could kind of flow over, and, it has this depth to it, this texture. This has the same thing, but in layers, right? So like the top, you think you're kind of smelling this aldehydic, fruity, green fragrance, and then it shifts to this powdery, proper floral chypre. But when it gets to the dry down, it almost smells like you're smelling an Oriental. You know, you get the benzoin and the patchouli and the styrax and vanilla and vetiver and that sparkly ambergris. It's amazing. If you can find these older bottles, I would highly recommend it. Okay. We're getting down to the end. Let's keep it under 2 hours. Number 17 is a Trussardi, and this is Krizia Uomo. This came from Rich Mitch. So this bottle came from Enchanté, from Canada, all the way to England and back down to Texas. Love this stuff. Oh God, I am in love with Trussardi Uomo. Trussardi Uomo is one of my favorite creations by Beatrice Piquet, who created Guerlain's L'Instante Guerlain for men, Au Extreme, Pour Homme. And those are her two best creations in my opinion. But this is this aldehydic spicy opening. So it opens up with aldehydes and spices that smell like you're smelling spices from your grandmother's kitchen. You know, if your grandmother lived in the same house since the 1950s, like mine did, her spice cupboard has had a lot of spices in there, and they've sat and macerated almost, right? It's like the spices, like, you know, soaked into the wood of the cabinet, right? And you get that smell here. And underneath it all is this honeyed, irisy labdanum leather. Look at the leather. Okay, that's what you get from Trussardi Uomo, and it's this very traditional lavender. But think about these spices: basil, marjoram, thyme, juniper, bay leaf. Okay, with aldehydes. Amazing. I love it. I love it. And now I have 2 bottles. I'm so happy. So happy to have 2 bottles. Number 16 is a fragrance I have 4 bottles of, because this is probably one of my favorite women's fragrances ever. You know, I'd say Vanisia, the one I'm wearing today, is one. This is another. This one opened my eyes. I have a first impression video on this from about a year ago. Go check it out, and you'll see just what this fragrance did to me. This is Teatro alla Scala by Krizia. And this is the eau de toilette, but the eau de parfum is perfectly fine. The aldehydes in this are out of this world. The fruity aldehydic beeswax opening, it really does smell like you're at an opera and you're listening to the most beautiful voiced woman you've ever heard just, you know, sing her lungs out to the opera house. God. I mean, the beeswax, the carnation, the civet in the dry down. The way they use civet in here is a master stroke. I wish I knew who the perfumer was of this, because they deserve to be lauded, applauded, you know. They deserve to be lavished with praise for such a creation. Teatro alla Scala is amazing. Number 15 is Boss Spirit. This is the one that I said that Gerard Anthony's Salvador by Salvador Dali. This is like this is the father of Salvador. This is dirtier green. It almost has this cannabis-like vibe in the opening. The aldehydes and the galbanum. Listen to the opening. Aldehydes, mugwort, tarragon, galbanum, peppermint, more tarragon in the dry down. And then it dries down to this very sharp leather. Very sharp and harsh that almost clashes with the green notes, but it works, you know. And God, even from the atomizer, it is so strong. If Boss didn't have the best opening lineup of any fragrance house for the first 5 years that came about on the face of the earth, I don't know who did. Boss number 1 in 85, Boss Sport in whatever it was, 86, 87, and Boss Spirit in 89. I mean, just a stunner of an opening. What a opening trio Boss, you know, lavished on us men. And I'm very lucky to have this bottle. It's very hard to find nowadays. Okay, next is a fragrance that came all the way from England again. It was a bit of a hassle to get to, and I knew from the second I sprayed it, I loved it. I love this. I think this is even backup bottle worthy, and I would even go so far as to say that this is the best fragrance by Guy Zachon, period, of all time. The best one he ever created. This is, fuck me, man. This is Kinski by Kinski. No one talks about this, okay? This has probably the most realistic cannabis opening I've ever smelled. It's cannabis with aldehydes and blackcurrant. So again, I said Boss has a little bit of a cannabis vibe with aldehydes. This takes it and just blows it up. This is like putting cannabis in a balloon and just helium, right? And then it dries down to the most amazing suede castoreum with hedione and vetiver. This is a vetiver-based scent, okay? That's what I've found. That's what I've discovered. It's a vetiver-based scent. The vetiver in the base is the key. But the castoreum is what unlocks that key. And the castoreum with the aldehydic green cannabis with some fruity blackcurrant, fresh juniper, nutmeg, rose, magnolia. There's even some marine notes in here, which I don't really get. I don't get the marine notes. It's an insane fragrance. Like the man. Like Kinski, the man. I mean, look at his eye. He's insane. Look at him. Like the man, it's an insane fragrance. And I absolutely love it. I love this fragrance. I want another bottle. Honestly, it's that good. It is that good. Number 13 is one of the greatest masculines of all time. It's Aramis from 1964. Aramis is a Bernard Chant masterpiece. He's the master of aldehydes. This is aldehydes, artemisia, clover, thyme. You know, it has that spicy, leathery, dry, earthy castoreum. It's so unique. You could spot this from a mile away, you know, this DNA. And I did a video on Bernard Chant. Go check it out. Sorry, I'm getting a little tired. Almost 2 hours straight. But let's finish this. Let's do this. Next is a Chanel at number 12. This is number 22. So I put this over number 5 because maybe it's because this bottle was better kept. I don't know. There's something about number 22 that is just perfect. This is supposedly Chanel's wedding day scent for women. But I would say this is one of the best aldehydic florals I've ever smelled. Ever. Number 22 to me is a perfect combination of aldehydes and florals with just enough vanilla and vetiver to keep it balanced. You know, big fan of number 22. And next on the list, we've got number 11, which is the Great Arpege by the House of Lanvin. This is the extrait of Arpege. And I've shown this bottle off before, but this is a special fragrance. I'm very lucky to have it. It is, oh God, the aldehydes and honeysuckle and peach and iris. There's even a camellia flower note, which is supposedly mute, but it's here. Rose, ylang ylang, lily of the valley with real ambergris, and oh shit. This is one of the greatest fragrances of all time. I mean, it really is. I think it's one of the greatest fragrances of all time. It's just a shame more people don't get to smell this because this is a vintage bottle. And when I got it, it came sealed. And I'm very lucky. I know I'm very lucky to have it. It's just one of the best fragrances of all time. There's nothing else to say, you know. Number 10 is Bernard Chant again, and this is Devon. This could easily be number 1. Easily this could be number 1. Devon is one of the best green, spicy, woody, aldehydic, galbanum, aldehydes with that piney, labdanum, leather-like dry down that was so popular in the 70s with that green mugwort. And, I mean, Devon is, if you're a fan of green fragrances and you have not smelled Devon, do yourself a favor. Try to find a vintage bottle that looks like this, if you can. They're not that expensive still. No one hypes up Devon, I promise you. Even the new one is still good, but it's missing something. The new one is missing. I don't know if the oak moss or, you know, whatever it was makes that big of a difference, but there definitely is something missing. And it really feels like that those base notes, the leather, the labdanum, the oak moss, maybe a touch of civet or something, really just even bleeds up from the beginning. You know, you smell some of that from the early get-go. And so if it is missing a little something, it does show in this fragrance. Check out Devon if you get a chance. If you love these type of fragrances like I do. All right, that was number 10. We're in the top 10. Number 9 is a Les Indemodables, believe it or not. And again, this could easily be number 1 on anyone's list. This is Ambre Supreme. Ambre Supreme is a fragrance created by Antoine Lee, and who's probably my favorite current perfumer all of a sudden. Aldehydes with clary sage, Madagascan pink pepper, Indian cardamom, neroli, Moroccan jasmine absolute, patchouli, ambergris, and immortelle, real ambergris. Go read the Les Indemodables blurb as to how much ambergris they use. Someone was arguing with me saying it's not 10% ambergris, you idiot. They use tinctures, don't you know? And I was like, dude, Les Indemodables says it's 10% ambergris. So I'm not going to back them up. Go read the blurb on the website if you want to be that guy and argue with me. But there is a ton of real ambergris in here, and it smells. It's you can pick it up. It's beautiful. It gives this feeling, this, you know, sun sparkling off the ocean is what I get from this. And the aldehydes play into that. And it's a calm ocean. It's not a rough waves. It's everything is serene in your world when you smell this. I don't get an immortelle note, though, believe it or not. Even though it's listed, I never get an immortelle note when I smell this. But Ambre Supreme is one of the best ambergris and one of the best aldehyde fragrances to me. Okay, number 8 is another Lagerfeld. This time it's Photo. Photo's aldehydes are shockingly good, stunningly good. The aldehydes in Photo are among the best I've ever smelled. This would be a niche fragrance today, no doubt about it. This would be a $380 niche, $500 niche fragrance. Aldehydes, galbanum, lavender, honey, caraway. There's this aldehydic, strange contrast because this is a fresh fragrance. So the aldehydes and the citruses and lavender give this freshness to it. But then there's this honey, fresh honey, and amber and benzoin and oak moss and all this stuff that you would think would add some heft, and yet the fragrance remains fresh. It remains woody and fresh, and the aldehydes play a big part in the opening. So, Photo by the House of Lagerfeld. Amazing stuff in any version that you can find. Okay, next on the list we've got number 7, and this is the great Robert Piguet's Bandit. One of the best aldehydes I've ever smelled. It is so in your face. Just, God, I love this stuff, man. It's like this in your face, just smoky, leathery, castoreum, galbanum, tarragon, ylang ylang. But the aldehydes in the opening are such an important player. The castoreum to build that leather. One of the greatest leathers, period. No, nothing else needs to be said about Bandit. It is one of the greatest leathers of all time. And the fact that it was marketed for women kind of makes me chuckle. I can't imagine a woman nowadays smelling like that, but, Okay, number 6. We've got an Aramis. Again, Bernard Chant. Again, this could easily be number 1. And again, on your list, if this was number 1, I would not be surprised one bit. This is Aramis 900. So, Aramis 900 is the rose patchouli that all future rose patchoulis deserve to give kind of a bow down to. Like Portrait of a Lady and Les Abstraits, Les Indemodables, Les Abstraits, La Dalle Exquise, they all deserve to bow down to Aramis 900. This is like the grandfather, okay? Look at that beautiful red little line right there. Perfect representation of the fragrance. Aldehydic, spicy floral opening with patchouli and this civet with claws. The civet in here in these older bottles has some serious claws, okay? Apparently, Aromatics Elixir is close to this. I've never smelled it still, but Aramis 900 is a stunner. And I'm going to cheat for a couple here, so you're going to have to forgive me. I have to cheat because it just has to be. And again, this could be number one. It probably should be number one, to be honest with you. I have a video on this on my channel. Go check it out. It's a fragrance unlike anything I've ever smelled before. It's called Guerlain's Jedi. And, you know, sometimes I just want to douse myself in this one day and just wear this whole thing and just, you know, just bask in the glory of Jedi. It's long discontinued Guerlain from 1926, 1 year after Shalimar, 1 or 2 years after Shalimar. But it's this aldehydic vetiver scent. Again, very strangely similar to Kinski in a weird kind of way. The animalic notes here don't feel like castoreum, though. They feel like something different. They feel like maybe they use civet or something like that. But the story is about this magician that I guess raised people from the dead or in ancient Egypt or I don't know. But there's this strange mossy, leathery, textured feeling in the dry down. It's just this unsettling is a good word for the scent. It's a very unsettling fragrance. And yet, you almost can't help but think you're in the presence of greatness while wearing this. Like you're smelling something that may feel unsettling to you, but you have to respect its greatness. And the aldehydes and the lily of the valley and the bergamot in the top announce this scent in a way I've never smelled before. So Jedi deserves much love. And then, again, cheating again, number 5, this is Antiquity by Arrogance Uomo. And if you gave me one Arrogance Uomo to buy right now, it might be Antiquity. I think I want a bottle of Antiquity worse than anything else. It's this leathery animalic, which again, right up my alley, leathery animalic, but it has this peach aldehyde in the opening with bergamot and Cambodian oud, carnation. And I said that this reminds me of being on a train, a steam engine train from like, 1900 or something, and watching all of the great Guerlains like produce their fragrances like in real time, right? Like you have a time machine and you can go back and watch. And while you're watching, you're smelling it in the scent. Antiquity is, I mean, there are almost no words. It is so good. All right, number 3. Let's knock this out. I'm getting tired. I'm sure you guys are too. This is Azure, one of the best proper leather sheepers of all time. Fuck. And again, it's Bernard Chant. He deserves to be number 1, honestly. He's not going to be number 1, though. There is another fragrance I put ahead of all of these. For the aldehyde note, because of what it does to me. It's a personal thing, but Azure I put number 1 on my leather fragrance list that I did, and it deserved to be number 1. The leather sheepra video I did, this was number 1. And there's this aldehydic green, dark, smoky, almost like you can smell the oak moss from the word go, and forest floor-like, but yet powdery and leathery. And I can't believe this was marketed towards women in 1969. It smells like Aramis, like a better version of Aramis. Honestly, I think this is even better than Aramis. And but man, I love this stuff, and I love the way Bernard Chant does aldehydes, and you can see he's all over this top 10, and then some. Aramis 900. He's all over this. So Azure, he's got Devon, he's got a bunch of stuff in here, and then we've got number 2, and another Bernard Chant. This is JHL. JHL is this. Man, you can just, from the word go, I mean, you, again, it smells like you're smelling the perfect, this is just this perfect, warm, spicy, like you're wearing this during the holiday season, and you've got the aldehydes, but you also have this fruity melange. Maybe it's a little bit decomposing. Maybe the fruits are turning a little bit bad, but you need that. You need a little bit of that dirtiness in here. God, orange and carnation and rose, and there's green touches and benzoin, and the way that the aldehydes mix with the orange, the fruits, and the sprightly lemon and bergamot is masterpiece. And then you blend it with the labdanum, vanilla, and I don't know if it gets better than this for this DNA. I mean, honestly, man, I'm in love with this stuff. I mean, I can't wait to wear this. I need to wear this very soon. I wore Opium the other day and loved it to death. Today I'm wearing Azure, and I'm loving it. So JHL needs to come very soon. And then finally, we have the great Guerlain #1. And yes, it is. I had to do this because this fragrance puts me in the state of mind. It puts me in a place that is one of the most introspective fragrances I've ever smelled. Can you guys guess what it is? #1 is Encens Mythique. I think this is one of the best aldehydes because of the way that it makes me look inwards. There is something when Galen had a video on this. He took it down, but he basically said that it's like staring out into the ocean. And you just notice that the ocean just goes on and on and on, and you're just this tiny little speck. And then you look up and you see the stars, and you realize that you're really this tiny little speck. And this fragrance just brings that. It brings all of those feelings out of, I think, every single human being that has ever lived on the earth. It just has this this aldehydic rose and ambergris combo, and very similar to the ambergris in Ombre Supreme, okay? Very similar to the ambergris and Ombre Supreme. But for some reason, this fragrance makes me think of this serene, calm ocean. And if the ocean is a representation for your feelings and thoughts, this makes me think of an ocean with crashing waves. And, it is a disturbed ocean. And, there are violent waves crashing against the rocks, or it's that kind of feeling. It's this this unsettled mind, like you're constantly thinking, like restless. It's this restless feeling. But it's always looking inwards. It's always trying to look inside, and that's why this has to be #1 for me, even though this is not my favorite fragrance. Because I have a hard time wearing this because it can almost ruin a day, right? Like if I wear this, it can almost ruin my day because I can't focus. I start having these thoughts, and I have to kind of watch where I wear this. But I love it. I mean, it's so introspective, but it's just one of those things. So that's why it's #1. Do I think this is the best aldehydic fragrance? No, I think Bernard Chant's creations deserve that. He was the king of aldehydes, but for me personally, this fragrance just pulls something out of me in a way that those don't. So that's why it's #1. So thanks for watching. 2 hours and 8 minutes. I am pooped. I hope you guys appreciate it. I have to put all this stuff away now. Does anyone want to come put this away for me? Anyways, cheers, guys. Let me know what your favorites are. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you again tomorrow with another video. Bye now.